Beyond the 21st of December, there is still work to be done, and if we want to keep healing the world, we have to keep healing ourselves. On this episode of Paradigm Shift Radio, we welcome Pheonyx Roldan Smith onto the show. Pheonyx is a teacher of his own truth, here to help others align with theirs. Along with being featured on the popular video series Pheonyx Feedback in collaboration with Spirit Science, he is also adamant about leading workshops, in particular his individual Merkaba activation technique, which we talk about on the show. Life is about learning lessons, and on this episode we touched upon how to perceive aspects of pain and how it ties into personal growth. Beyond that, we also talked about the simplicity of making choices and even working towards redefining how we think about prayer. We concluded the show with a grounding meditation led by Pheonyx to give us orientation as we move forward on our paths. This show is continuously reaching out to more people, and the more it does, the more we all learn. So be sure to share Paradigm Shift Radio with your friends, join us on Facebook, Never Stop Learning, and enjoy the show.
Before there can be a collective awakening, there must be an established sufficient core of people who are functioning on their higher frequencies of awareness. Globally, this might be between 10 and 12 million people. This core is not centralized, nor is it in the province of one belief system or religion. It is spread across many religions. And these individuals who are functioning on these higher frequencies will be uniting on an internal basis, not external. They will join together through the universal field of consciousness. This is Skull Babylon, and you're tuned in for the last episode ever of Paradigm Shift Radio, because this time next week we are going to be in the fifth dimension. That's right, and they have no radio stations there or internet. So enjoy it while it lasts, guys. This is the last show ever of Paradigm Shift Radio. I repeat. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, we're going to be here next week, so just a little quick joke there to start things off. This is Skull Babylon, and as said, you're listening to Paradigm Shift Radio, and Paradigm Shift Radio, for those who are tuning in for the first time, is a media branch of Paradigm Shift Central. Go to ParadigmShiftCentral.com, and there are about 50 plus Paradigm Shift communities across the globe, and these Paradigm Shift communities are about encouraging open-mindedness, healthy living, and the evolution of consciousness. So there's more communities popping up every week. These communities are physical communities where people get together and they talk about some of the topics that we'll be talking about tonight, but it's really not limited to anything. It's really, like I said, to encourage open-mindedness. So each one of these communities is really unique in its own way, depending on who's in it and who's helping move it forward. So if you want to help get a Paradigm Shift community started in your area, if you want to help connect with the people in your community and help raise consciousness where you are, consider starting up a Paradigm Shift community, and it's quite simple to do so. And again, go to facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Central or ParadigmShiftCentral.com, and there's some tips and tricks there on how to get things started, and we're always encouraging people to get things going. And if you need any help, that is what we are here for. We are a global community to help support you in this collective movement that we are definitely taking hold of. I think, you know, as we've continued to do the show over the past 26 weeks now, there's definitely been an increase, and I'm glad that we've had a lot of people who have been consistent listeners in this, and so I thank every single one of you who have been tuning in consistently, and as well as those of you who are continuing to hop on board, because it's never too late, and the more that we continue these conversations, the more accessible this information is going to be to people who may be coming into an interest in a lot of these topics. You know, they might have sort of heard them here and there, but suddenly they're finding themselves more pulled towards them. So that's where we want to be able to help welcome them as a community and say, like, oh no, you're not crazy. I mean, you're no crazier than we are, right? But I mean, here, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear about your experiences, and that's really what we're doing. So we got a good show lined up tonight. We're going to be having Pheonyx on the show. Pheonyx is from Pheonyx Feedback. You've seen some of his videos on the Spirit Science channel. Our buddies at Spirit Science, thespiritScience.net. Check out their work if you have not yet. A lot of excellent stuff going on there. So Pheonyx is going to be on the show, and he's going to be sort of, I mean, it's not necessarily going to be me interviewing him. Think of it more as him kind of co-hosting, so to speak, meaning that we're still going to be getting people such as yourself calling into the show to share some thoughts, share some ideas, and really just sort of see where things go, with the goal being collective education and inspiration. So stay tuned to that. He will be on the show quite soon. And before we get there, just a little bit of community news. So for those of you who've been following, I've been doing the Journey to Rockmont documentary, and I'll just post a trailer for that in the live show. And obviously, if you're listening to this on Blog Talk from the future. Keep in mind that this episode does appear on YouTube as all the other episodes do, and you can go to the archives at paradigmshiftcentral.com/PSR to listen to the 25 episodes prior to this and go back. There's a lot of excellent stuff there. And like I said, Journey to Rockmont is a documentary about the 3 days of light gathering that I attended early in November, and the documentary is about 99% out the door. So it's coming out this week. I know I said it was going to be coming out last week, but due to circumstances, we just moved the dates around a bit, but it will be coming out very, very soon. So if you have not yet, check out the trailer for that, or just save it until after we're done the show. And be sure to tell your friends about it. That's something that I've been working really, really hard on as a videographer, as an editor, as a filmmaker. That's my profession. That's what I do. I went to school for media theory and production, and that's why I'm here helping you guys. I want to be able to tell the bigger story as a journalist and as a participant. So go to paradigmshiftcentral.com/JTR, Journey to Rockmont, and there's also the event page. You can find that info in the YouTube link as well, in the video info for that. Join the event page for that. Invite some of your friends. Help get the word out. That's all I ask you to do, because like I said, this film is part of a bigger story, and if people see this, my goal is so they can see it and they're going to be inspired. They're going to be, oh my God, like this is happening. There's people out there who are living their truth, who are being authentic. That makes me want to be authentic. That makes me want to like go out there and not hold back and really embrace what this whole paradigm shift is about. And that's something we can get into the discussion about. But I mean, plain and simply, it's moving from this idea of fear and guilt towards love and understanding. So you'll see that in the documentary firsthand, and it's about an 80-minute documentary, so it's a full-length film, and it's being released online for free. So that's something, like I said, I've been working on that for a while, and if you would like to support me being able to continue to do that, feel free to donate to the Paradigm Shift communities. The money isn't necessarily, it's not going to me, it's going to the communities, but I put out the work so that the money can come back to go to the communities so that we can continue to do more consciousness shifting projects. So basically, I don't do this work for the money, but I need money to continue doing the work to a degree. But I mean, let's not really get too deep into that. So if you would like to donate to help keep Paradigm Shift Radio going at the very least, because this show does cost about $40 a month to keep going, and needless to say, if I'm not getting some help, then it's sort of costing me money to do this. I mean, that's just part of the reality of it, but that's what I chose to do, and it's not going to stop me from doing it, So if you would like to donate, go to paradigmshiftcentral.com/donate, and that's going to help support Paradigm Shift communities and as well as Paradigm Shift Radio. It's going to help pay for those bills, so to speak. So feel free to do that, and you're not going to hear me asking about money for at least a little while longer. So who knows? I mean, we're not even going to have money in the fifth dimension. Like, what? I know, right? Like, it's so trivial. Anyways, so check that out. And also, just a quick shout out, part of the music in the documentary is going to be, you'll see in the documentary, it's from my good buddy Billy Mays III, and check out his stuff at facebook.com/infinite3rd. The entire soundtrack of the Journey to Rockmont was provided by Billy. A lot, like, the music was already done. He had made the music beforehand. He gave me the music and gave me permission to use it. So the documentary would not be what it is if it wasn't for Billy. So Billy, personally, thank you so much for doing that, and I am looking forward to sharing this documentary with everyone, and that will be something that we'll talk about next week, presuming that it is out there and you guys have seen it and everything. So that'll be pretty awesome, and once it's out there, just continue to push it forward and continue to get it out there so that the bigger story can be told. So that's part of it. All right, guys, and just also in other news, there weren't necessarily any new paradigm shift communities that popped up this week. I did see, I mean, it's kind of peculiar. I saw a page for Paradigm Shift Victoria, which was in Australia, and the page like disappeared or something. So Paradigm Shift Victoria, if you're still out there, let me know, and we'll get your page shared within the next weeks. And any other Paradigm Shift communities that are emerging and want us to be able to share it, let us know through facebook.com/Paradigm Shift Central so that we can get the word out there. But just because there were no new Paradigm Shift communities that I know of this week doesn't mean that nothing was happening. I mean, I've been keeping an eye on the Paradigm Shift communities happening. More and more of them are getting into the habit of having their regular meetings, and this is such a key thing. To be able to have that consistency of the meetings is going to give people that chance to come out when the time is ready for them. You can't force people to do anything. So what just to give you a little insight on what's been happening in Paradigm Shift London. Paradigm Shift London is the community that I'm affiliated with. It's where Paradigm Shift, this whole thing, sort of originated from. It originated as a club in the college that I went to within London, Ontario, Canada, and it's continued to grow since there. And like I said, the global aspect of it sort of began around the same time that this radio show started. So, I mean, within 25 weeks, we've got 50 communities, so that's, that says a lot right there. So let's continue to keep that momentum going. But anyways, what we within the Paradigm Shift London community, we moved to a new location at a new not a new yoga studio, but another yoga studio downtown. And just to tell you, like, last night we had a regular Friday meeting, and it was just it was so nice. Like, it's up in a yoga studio, and it's on the third floor, and it's really lofty. Like, it's the third floor, sort of wooden floor, brick walls, and we got in like a full 35-minute meditation. So a really good meditation. Had a lot of really good conversation. It was just really welcoming, and I'm just really looking forward to that happening again next Friday and the Friday after that. So we will be having a meeting there on the December 21st date. So if anybody who's listening to this who happens to be in London, Ontario, you're more than welcome to come out to that, and go to facebook.com/ParadigmShiftLondon, and you'll see the info on that. It's at 645 of the Downtown Yoga Studio, 236 Dundas Street. So anybody's welcome to that. It's on all ages, open-minded conversation and meditation. Each one's different, each one's unique, and each one is really refreshing, and it's really enjoyable to be able to connect with our peers on that level. And just in terms of what's going to be happening in London on the December 21st, just to let you guys know, because I'd like to hear about what you guys have planned on December 21st. As for what I'm going to be doing on December 21st, well, a little while back, I did a little video project on September 21st, which was Peace Day, International Peace Day, and it was this little thing called the Plant a Seed. It was Plant a Seed because what it was me and some friends going up and down our street. Well, technically we were stationary, but we had 3 signs positioned on our downtown street, a very busy street where all the traffic cuts through. And on the 3 signs, we had some thought-inspiring ideas, some inspirational thoughts that were on a big sign being held by 2 people so that the cars could see it as they drove past. So I just posted a link in the video, and the link will be included into the YouTube version of this as well. So check out the video if you have not, and get an idea of what we did, because that's kind of what we're going to be doing again on December 21st. We're going to be getting people's attention using signs, and then we're also going to expand on it, and we're also going to work in some free hugs into the aspect. So there's going to be a bunch of people holding big signs. So the signs that we had in our video, and again, you can watch the video and see this yourself, we had one that said, "Open your heart," one that said, "As you think, so shall you become," and one that said, "We are collective consciousness experiencing itself subjectively." So Bill Hicks. And I'm going to make a 4th sign, and the 4th sign is going to say "Spiral Outwards." So look forward to that. Like I said, that's going to be happening on December 21st. And then from there, we're going to be working our way downtown with our free hug signs, interacting with our community. We're going to have business cards for the Paradigm Shift communities. And business cards are such a key thing. So business cards, for any of the people who are listening to this in the Paradigm Shift community, I know I've talked about this in the past. I'd like to be able to, I will get you guys a template up. So if you have Photoshop, you can like customize it, or you can make some already without having to wait for me. But business cards are such a key and simple thing in terms of expanding these communities and reaching out to our communities, because that way, so if you're just seeing someone on a bus and you're just sort of like overhearing them, and then you can just sort of step in and just be like, "Hey, I have something you might be interested in," and you give them the business card, and then at that point, it's up to them to choose when they want to get involved. So it's really simple, and it just gives them a central location to sort of connect back to. So check out the Facebook for facebook.com/ParadigmShiftCentral. That's where you'll find the things like the tools such as business card templates and button templates and sticker templates and poster templates relating around Paradigm Shift that I can sort of work together for you guys so that you can help get the word out there in your community. Again, those are the tools. Those are the tools that we need. How do we as a community expand into the bigger community? How do we connect with those around us? And again, simple idea is business cards. So that'll be pretty cool. So just going back to what I was saying, with the December 21st, we're doing the sign holding project. That's what we're doing here. I'm videotaping it. There's going to be a video of it up on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/SkullBabylon. You can check for that after the December 21st date. And then from there, we're going to be moving to meet up with an even bigger group at a flash mob meditation. So, I guess it's sort of a flash mob meditation, but it's going to be a mass group meditation inside of like a mall. So that will be really cool. And this has happened in places before, but there's a reason for it. It's effective. It creates that contrast between sort of like consumerism culture and this sort of like other aspect where people, you know, aren't giving into consumerism. So that will be pretty cool, and that will be part of the story. And then from there, we're going to be having our paradigm shift meeting. So it'll be walking down the street, holding signs, reaching out to people, giving out free hugs, giving out business cards, like all this on December 21st, right? So I mean, in the back of people's heads, they're going to be like, whoa, like, you know, like what's like it's going to trigger stuff, you know, it's going to plant those seeds, it's going to get their attention, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to reach out to people and say, hey, there's a physical community here. So if you're interested in this stuff being anything from ranging from quantum mechanics to spirituality and everything in between, really, and everything beyond, then this is what is there for you. And we want, you know, we encourage people to get involved, and there's, you know, no segregation. Anybody's welcome. Everybody's voice is welcome. So that'll be pretty cool. So again, if you're in London, feel free to join us. Go to facebook.com/paradigmshift-London to get in touch if you happen to be in London, Ontario, Canada, because we are looking for more people to get involved with that. And again, do something in your direct community so that you can get involved with stuff too and help make the difference in your immediate community. So there we go, guys. All right, so just quick shout out to everybody who's in the live chat right now. As of right now, we have 85 users in the live chat, and that doesn't mean that's 85 people listening. That means there's 85 people in the live chat. If you're listening and not in the live chat, it's pretty easy to join in. You can log in with your Facebook, or you can create a guest account, or you can create an actual account, and then continue to keep the conversation going inside the live chat. I know there's a lot of people there who already know each other, but if you might be new, just be like, hey guys, I'm new to this, here's my Facebook, feel free to add me, and do that, because we want to be able to connect with people outside of this, you know, like we want to be able to, like, people outside of our community. We want to be able to strengthen the grid on a global scale. So everybody who's in the live chat right now, like, feel free to do that. Post your Facebook link right now, and then whoever's watching this in the live chat, just click those links and just be like added, and then there you go, and then continue the conversation from there. It's really quite that simple using the tools that we have. So one sec. Delicious water. All right, guys, so there's a couple things I could go over. Let me just think here. Yeah, okay, so I'm just going to say a quick shout out to help inspire you in terms of videos, because every week I try to share at least one video from somebody in the community. So this week I'm sharing a video by our good friend Breezy, Brianna Breezy Spread Love. She put up a video earlier in the week encouraging people to get involved with the 12-12-12 meditation, as well as the December 21st, encouraging them to do their own meditation. So I just posted the link into the live chat. I'm doing that again because there's a lot of everybody's posting their Facebook right now. That's good to see, guys. I'm glad you're listening. And check out that link if you have not yet, or check it out after the show and see what Brianna is doing. Like, listen to her. She's a very passionate individual, and she's very inspirational. She's one of the people who's really taking, you know, she's the vanguard. Like, we're the vanguard, and we need to be able to express our voice. So be inspired by her actions to create your own actions, and you can sub her channel at Pearls Angel. So youtube.com/Pearls Angel. And Brianna is actually going to be visiting me in London on the 21st, so you'll be able to expect to see her in the video that I'll be doing. So, like, we're joining forces. So her as well as my buddy Eddie, who both of them, we ran into each other 3 days of light. That's what we're doing. We're joining forces, and we're coming together, and we're reaching out to our community, and we're shifting paradigms. Like, that's really it, you know? So that's really what it is. It's about reaching out to our community, and then when we're not busy reaching out to our community, it's continuing to practice within our own space, continuing to develop ourselves, continuing to be consistent, to be vigilant, and just to move forward in any way that is appropriate to you. There is no one way, so find that way that works for you and do it. So I think that's pretty much now I just say, Pheonyx, if you're listening, I don't see you in the caller queue right now. So Pheonyx, if you are in the caller queue, just confirm with me on Facebook. Send me a message, and I'll bring you on shortly, because I would like to be able to get everybody. I would just like to be able to get this moving forward. And when we have Pheonyx on, let me just say this. We want to be able to bring other people on the show to get into this conversation. Like I said, we're going to be talking about some interesting stuff. We're going to be talking about like the light body. We're going to be talking about Merkabas. We're going to be talking about like what it means to be alive in this experience and what we're sort of working back to. Pheonyx is an incredible guy, and he's also in the 3 Days of Light documentary that you'll be able to see. So you'll be able to see the Merkaba activation workshop that Pheonyx orchestrated. So that'll be very cool to be able to see him in action in that video and be able to connect it with what we're talking about here today. And if you have not yet, go to his, he has the website for the OCGproject.com, so I'll post that in the live chat as well, as I find it somewhere. So there it is. And I also have a link to his YouTube, and you can check out the videos on the Spirit Science channel as well. There's quite a few videos called Pheonyx Feedback that Pheonyx has done in collaboration with Jordan. So again, Pheonyx, let me just see, like he should be, I'm just kind of seeing if I can message him on Facebook. No, Pheonyx, I don't see you in the queue right now, so there may be some technical issues. Pheonyx, I don't see you showing up as Roldan Smith in my queue on the blog talk right now, so maybe if you just want to either try recalling in or let me know if you're going to call in with your cell phone. See, now it's weird. Like Pheonyx, okay, hold on. I just want to see. Okay, there's somebody who's in the queue, and it may be Pheonyx, but it's not showing up as his name. So, random person who may or may not be Pheonyx, I'm going to try bringing you on, and if it's Pheonyx, then awesome. We'll go from there. So, random person, here we go. Hello, who is this?
Hello, this is Pheonyx.
Yes, we did it. We did it. All right, guys. So there we
Hello.
go. It was weird. It was showing up with a. I had to guess on that one, but all right, cool, guys.
I'm anonymous on Skype. Is that so?
It didn't show up as your username. It showed it up as a phone number, but it wasn't hard to guess with you. So
very
cool. All right, so
here.
Let's move this forward, but before I do that, let me just sort of finish my last thought. Guys, we want to be able to have you joining us in the conversation today here with Pheonyx, but let me just say this first. If you want to be a person to call in to either ask a question or to bring up an idea or to just share an insight or an experience, feel free to. But as for the first half of the show, I would like to place the priority that we have males call in. So if you are a female, we want to hear from you, because I mean, I'd rather, like, it just in terms of balancing things out and just make sure that we do get that feminine voice in the show. I only want the people to be calling in who want to be on the show. I only want females. So just females for now, just to make sure that we do get that feminine voice in instead of me just like randomly rolling the dice and accidentally getting like 5 guys in a row, right? So we want to make sure that we get that feminine voice in. So that is an important thing, and maybe that's something that we can talk about. So again, if you're a female who wants to call into the show, it's pretty easy to call into the show. You can call in using the link at the top of the Blog Talk page. You'll see next to the host number, the little Skype icon, and if you already have Skype installed, click that icon. It'll ask you to launch Skype, and then click OK, and then press 1, and we'll see you in the queue. So again, we want a female to call into the show, and then that would make my night. So ladies' night indeed. All right. So Pheonyx, again, thank you for being on the show, my friend. And now, before we get into things, just introduce yourself to the people. Who are you? If that's not too broad of
that question that always comes up. Who are you, and what are you doing here? Well, greetings, and thank you. First of all, thank you for allowing me to be here. It's really exciting, of course. Now, do I call you Skull or Skull Babylon or Brendan, or what are we going by in this moment?
Call me Big Skull. No, you can
Big. and then I'll be Big Bird. How's that? People can call me Big Bird. So right. I'm. Can you hear me? Okay. I am calling from Bali, and I don't have cell service here, so I'm calling you via Skype, and the connection here can be pretty interesting. So, is it coming through okay?
Coming through okay, and if people in the chat just want to confirm, make sure that you can hear it okay as well. But yes, as far as I can tell, it's quite audible, so we are good. So by all means, so.
if it does kick out, I'll just call back, and now you know who I am anonymously by number. And well, who am I? I'm this guy who's doing this thing around the world, and just having a really amazing time doing it. As you mentioned, thank you for the plug on theocgproject.com. People can go there, obviously, and after this talk and learn a little bit more about what it is that I'm doing and why. But primarily, I was born on this planet about 40 years ago, actually 40 years ago this year, and I've been figuring it out ever since and remembering a lot of things. And now I'm going around and just spreading the love and spreading the light and carrying on the conversation that calls to be had. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into about myself. That could be a whole show in and of. And I don't think your listeners really care for that, and it's exhausting for me to talk about. So, but yeah, so I'm here, and I'm doing some good things, I think. So now I'm here with you.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I mean, just based on the fact that you're sort of like taking the role of, and from what I see, like I see you as a teacher. I mean, obviously, we're all teachers and stuff, but you more so adamantly take the role. I mean, like you were the one who was doing the workshop at the 3DL, so like people sort of look to you like for that like guidance, that person to be able to like orchestrate, and it was interesting because when you were talking about that, you said like a lot of your techniques in terms of like the Merkaba activation, and that's something we can get into. Like, how did you learn those techniques? Like, a lot of it sort of like just innately came to you, sort of thing. Like, I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Big Skull. It's. I think a lot of the people out there will probably relate to this. I was reluctant on this path for a long time. I had no idea, let alone any designs on doing what it is that I'm doing, even as recent as 5 years ago. My whole life went through a massive change as I began to wake up, if you would, to a lot of things about my journey and my path. And I was seeking. I've been listening. You posted the James, what was it, Wing Builder, is it?
Yeah. I was going to get into.
Yeah. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit more later. But it was interesting because that series, I got to about number 7 or 8, I think, maybe even close to 9 by the time this call came on, and I was just listening to this person, James, speak about the process and about the awakening, and it was hitting me in so many areas of resonance. I was just like, yeah, that's exactly kind of how it, that's how it played out for me. And I realized that I've been on this journey all my life, and I think that's the part of the awakening process. You realize that everything in your experience leads you to the next, and that there are no accidents. And so when I got called out into the world, and when I say called, it literally was a call from spirit to sell everything, to let go of the old world and the old reality / illusion that I had created about my life. And I saw a lot of things beginning to just simply fall apart as I was waking up to some self-realizations about how I want to move and be in this world. And then things just started happening. I started experiencing information in a new way, and it was coming to me. So a lot, even the Merkaba, people ask me a lot of times, where did I learn that? Where did I get that? And I tell people pretty openly, I got it intuitively, more or less. But there was all of these things in my life that led me to practicing everything that is within that experience. And then when it was time to begin to share it out in the world, it just kind of all came together. Or I like the analogy of it blossomed. It was like a flower opening, and every petal was very clear as to what part it played in the process. And then the Merkaba method activation work came into play quite suddenly, actually, just immediately after 11/11/11 of the last year.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. Now, an idea that sort of pops into my mind in terms of like these lessons, these teachings coming to you innately in order so that you can pass them on. What comes to my mind is the idea that this isn't the first lifetime around that you've actually learned these lessons, and to presume like perhaps in a past life you were already quite familiar with these lessons. I mean, maybe that's the idea, is that like these lessons aren't something that you're just like pulling out of thin air, so to speak, but they're actually being like passed on to you by your higher self, like the higher self of you that has already taught and experienced and learned these lessons in a past life, and now you're innately bringing them with you into this life so that you can like share them once again without having to go through the whole process of completely relearning. Because I think in terms of reincarnation, I mean, that's, you know, there's a big topic there in itself. I think that's kind of the point, is that we go through an experience, we have these lessons, we learn these lessons, and then next time around we go into our next life and we continue to move forward, opposed to just like repeating all of the same lessons that we did in the previous life. I mean, in some cases we will repeat the same lessons if it's essential, if it's part of our life path, and then if we don't learn from them, we're definitely going to repeat them. But in a lot of cases, you know, it's sort of like that Fibonacci sequence where we're taking the previous sequence and we're adding it on to the next. So in terms of like creating this efficiency in how this universe and this life unfolds, it makes sense to, instead of having to completely relearn something from scratch, that it sort of stays with us from one life to the next, so that we can learn more things and continue to grow even more exponentially, instead of just having to like start from scratch each time. Like, is that something that you've sort of thought about in terms of like these teachings that you that have come to you?
Oh, absolutely. And thought about, not just thought about, but actually have experienced. And yeah, I would say that the process of the unfolding for me, it really is about a remembering of of things that we already know, somewhere innately within our what I call our cosmic DNA, our structure of coming onto the planet. And there's a lot of teachers right now. So, and I accept the role as teacher, and the title is teacher, as long as there's no attachments to it, just like everything else. And I say, you know, the greatest teacher is really, you know, the most profound student of life and all experiences. And that when there was a quote I saw that I love, it says, when we teach, we learn twice. You know, so there's the process of learning what it is, and then when we share it, we learn it again, and we learn it in a new way. And so every time that I share, whether it's Qigong or Tai Chi or meditation or, you know, or the Merkaba, you know, activation, the breath work, essentially, for people who are not familiar with Merkaba out there, you know, for that, all of that is about remembering and learning all over again, and how to apply what information is already inherently there, and how do we apply it in a new way here on this planet, and in this time, in this very specific time that is constantly shifting and moving and changing and growing. And so, yeah, so I actually did have an experience as I was going through the unfolding, if you would, and I was remembering, oh, I'd done this before, or I'd been here before, or whether it was life as a Native American shaman, or whether it was a gypsy, you know, a French gypsy in the 1800s, or the opposite, when I wasn't doing this type of stuff, when I have a specific life remembrance of being part of aristocracy back in the mid-centuries, 13th, 14th centuries, and being very arrogant, and being very privileged, and not really having a realization of anything more than what was immediately around me in the mundane. That was a very hard life to remember. Hard in terms of difficult, the pain that I brought, you know, in that memory. And so we go through these experiences and going, okay, well, now I can relate to that, and how do I apply that in this life, where obviously this is a whole another thing. Yeah, but so even the information that is speaking now is tied into to our past, always, not just here, but on all of those events that occurred prior to being here, which is why reincarnation is such a very important and connected part of so many belief systems. You know, I don't use the word religion so much, but, you know, essentially that's what they've become. But primarily the belief systems that, aside from Christianity, there's very few, if little. I'm not aware of any others that actually believe in a singular lifetime of experience, and that many of them, you know, hold the essence that there are multiple experiences.
Yeah, like the whole reincarnation thing, to me, like it sounds logical, and I know that's kind of a word that, you know, you think that would sort of be applied to science and stuff like that. But I mean, in terms of the universe being very resourceful, to me, reincarnation just sounds logical. I mean, you know, even to like this is a quote from Terence McKenna. Like, he says, like, nothing lasts, but nothing is lost. So I mean, all those experiences, they add on to each other. So I mean, to just think that we go through this whole experience, we go through a whole lifetime, and then it just like fades to dust, and that's it, right? Like that's like what I would just slow down the process entirely. I mean, the universe wants to move forward. The universe puts forth its best effort. It's very resourceful in the energy it puts forth. It never puts forward, it never tries to like use more energy than it needs. So I mean, it's going to come up with ways to like utilize the energy that it does have and to be able to like add on to it to grow upon it. So yeah, reincarnation is just something that I think is making its way more into the mainstream, and it is making it more into the mindset, into that paradigm of people's lives when in so many ways. Because for me, that was a big part of this whole paradigm shifty thing when I realized that, like, okay, if I'm fighting for a future here in a very literal sense, I'm not just fighting for a future that my kids are going to be born into, but I'm fighting for that theoretically I can be born into again. And I'm just like, whoa, like, a very, very cool idea. And my good friend Vaughn, who's been on the show with us before, he I have to say, this is his, so I give credit to him. This is the first person who I heard this from. Everybody knows that term YOLO. Only live once, which, it sounds like an anti-Buddhist propaganda message that's sort of its way into culture. Well, here's the alternative to YOLO. Wolf. We only live forever. For anybody listening, just sort of keep that in the back of your head, just like when you're thinking about doing something, when you're thinking about moving forward, just think wolf. We only live forever. That's right. We're going to go through this again, and not to say that's a bad thing. A lot of people see now this. Maybe this is something to sort of ask you, because I've heard people talk about this. I've had this conversation with people who just say, like, the thought of reincarnation actually scares them. They've gone through so much in this life. They've gone through so much quote unquote pain, so much suffering. They're so tired, and the thought of having to come back and do it all again, no, I don't want to do it. Like, I just want to fade into blackness and stuff like that. So just turn that into, what would be your response to that? Like, just do you have something that you would say to that person, or just sort of like something that you would keep like inside of you? Like, how do you feel about a person who thinks that way? Because I think that there are people out there who do feel that way.
Absolutely, and it's a very real fear for people to live their life in the sense that, this one is so full of suffering. Why would I want to do it again? And in fact, it was a question that I asked myself when I was very, very young. Part of my story is that when I was still in my teens, I actually had a great sense of wanting to get out of the life, to get off this planet and to get out of the experience. It was very painful for me growing up, as it is for most people who are in this work of helping other people heal. And that is, I do believe, part of the process. You have to go through the suffering, if you would, in order to understand and see what the lesson and the gift is. And the gift is that life is very precious. And of course, there are people that choose not to continue within it and are successful at their attempt to suicide, to create suicide, to get out of life. And I struggled with that a lot. I grew up in the Catholic Church, and so my upbringing around that was one of those things you definitely didn't want to do, because you wouldn't enter the gates of quote unquote heaven, had you done that. And it was about giving up faith as well, on God, on the concept of God. And so it is a test as well. And I did attempt a suicide attempt when I was 15, and had a out of what do you call it? Not an out of body experience, but a near death experience, if you would, and had a conversation with the other side. Now, I was sent back more or less with the message saying that you can't come here, that it's not time, and that you must go back and finish what it is that you had begun. And so that was profound for me at 15, because I had no background for that information. I didn't have any, experience or knowledge about what is this thing that I agreed in life to do that I wasn't allowed into the gates of heaven at this time. But what was more profound for me was that there was an experience that was very real on the other side that I brought back with me that shifted me in a very big way. Now, I was not still without my own struggles, because I attempted again. I went down a very dark path again at the age of 21, and I again wanted to get out of life. And so it was, I just said, I just don't want to do this anymore. It's too tiring. It's too hard. I don't get it. It hurts. It hurts really, really badly, and I don't see any point in it. And through that experience, even the second time around, I had a very real awakening, again, with a quote-unquote failed attempt at suicide. But there was a being that showed up, a human being, a friend that basically gave me the message that I needed to move on. And I felt like this was the message that I was getting from the same source that I had experienced when I was 15. And it was then where I began to change my outlook on life, to say, okay, well, why is life suffering? And how was I to choose in terms of what it was I was willing to suffer and what it was I was willing not to, because that really is about the choice. And I said, and for me, the big answer for me was I needed to change my definition of eternity, of God, of the universe, of creator. And that was the day that I left organized religion, because I saw how detrimental and how dangerous it was for so many people, especially, for people like myself that were struggling with issues within the church, that were very dogmatic and very strict and said, if you don't do it this way, you're not a worthy being and you don't deserve to live, and so on and so forth. So there's this message, within the system that is very confusing, and so that's why many people are confused today, especially if they have any sense of spiritual truth about themselves, that they're just not clear exactly what it is. And at the age of 21, I began to open up. It was my really first time in my life, and it was my adult years, I was still in college, that I began to look at the other things. I began to read about Buddhism. I began to look at Hinduism and Sufism and all of these other religions and faiths that worked on the concept that there's not just one round, and that you have this thing called karma, and that you are constantly creating that karma in your life immediately right now. But you're also working with old karma, and some of that old karma came from lives that maybe you weren't as conscious, and that's why we're here in the life to balance that out and eventually not create a lot less of the negative and more of the positive in order to move to that level of ascension or to that next place. But it's a big topic and it's a big subject, and when someone's very caught up in their own life of suffering, it's hard to look beyond the borders of that until there's a moment that happens. And it does happen for many, many people. It's happening today for people, all over the world.
Yeah. Like one thing that has actually come up in a recent conversation, it came up in our paradigm shift meeting on Friday, is this idea that pain is a lesson in itself. And a lot of people have trouble with that. They're just like, no, like pain is, like suffering is suffering and love is love. But I mean, like,
right.
Process is hard.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
No, the Buddha says it best. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And when you begin to understand what that truly means, that yes, life in and of itself involves pain, but we also know that even in the birthing process, say of bringing in a new life, you look at a mother who goes through that process of every time of giving birth, how painful that experience often is and can be for some, although there are beings out there now in the world that are having amazing orgasmic experiences in birthing new life into the world, and I think that's also part of the remembering that it doesn't have to be that it doesn't have to be painful, that it can be this blessed, beautiful, very sacred and orgasmic event, if you would. There's actually a film out there, maybe someone can remember it. I can't remember the title of it, but it's a documentary about orgasmic births essentially, and following these women who did it more in the natural style. But pain is a part of life, but it's our suffering piece that we get to choose, and that's all about becoming aware of the mind and what is suffering, truly what is suffering. And for most people, suffering is living in the past or being fearful of the future. And when you work to being in the present moment and accepting what is, and then deal with that in a truly conscious and heartfelt way versus just kind of working with a rational or irrational mindset, you begin to unravel the strings around suffering, and it takes a great deal of practice and a lot of determination, but there are many beings who have done it, and I feel for the most part that's I've achieved a certain level of that. I don't feel I suffer in life near as much, for sure, but there are still times where I experience pain, and I use those as opportunities for immense growth and for huge self-awareness and understanding. And everybody has the ability to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There was we'll move into, I do have a caller who's in the queue, so we'll move into that in 1 second. Just one thing I was going to say tying in with this. There was a trailer that came out on the internet just a couple of days ago called After Earth, and it's about Will Smith and his boy who like land on Earth in a world where there's no humans and it's like only aliens and stuff. But anyways, within the trailer, Will Smith, he's talking, and Will Smith is a very intelligent man in himself, very spiritual as well. And what he says in the trailer, he says, fear is a choice, but like, danger is an element. So I mean, danger will always exist, but fear is a choice. So I mean, it's like the pain will always exist, but do you suffer from the pain? Like, can you move through? Can you embrace it? And that's a big part of the spiritual process. Again, sort of going back, like everything happens for a reason. So I mean, even if your path is to be resistant, that's your path, but you don't have to be resistant. You can let the experience sort of like flow through you, sort of thing, with the understanding that you will get out of it. You will become a stronger person because of it, and you will sort of like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and a simple sense of putting it. So.
Correct, absolutely, yeah. And pain's a powerful teacher, and when we realize what causes us pain, then we can begin to avoid. And of course, we're not just talking about physical pain. Obviously, there's that. You learn at a very young age. You don't put your hand on a hot iron. If you haven't experienced that, prior to actually understanding how an iron works, you learn very quickly. Or a stove, for example. You don't touch. It's hot, and if you do, you get burned. And so you learn through this process of pain. Experiencing pain. Oh, I don't want to create more pain for myself or unnecessary pain, and that's true as well on an emotional and mental level. But people don't really put the two together. They go, well, the world happens to me. And when the world happens to you, you don't have any control. Well, in truth, you don't have much control of what happens outside of you, but you definitely have control of how you deal with things happening, quote unquote, to you. And that when you realize that now I get to choose whether or not I want this experience versus another. Many people go into relationships, for example, that they know are not healthy. They go into a relationship that they know is going to be painful for them. I've heard people do it all the time. I hear people do it all the time. I have clients that tell me about it, and I go, why are you choosing to still be in that relationship? Well, because they're too fearful of something else outside of that relationship. Well, it's better than nothing. Is that true? Is one of the famous questions. Well, then it's here to teach you something through that pain. But know that you get to choose the level of suffering that you want, because you could easily say no and you could easily walk away. Well, easily is a matter of subjectivity. People have to get there, and eventually the pain becomes too great. And so eventually, there's another saying. A caterpillar becomes a butterfly when the pain of staying in is greater than the pain of emerging, something like that. It's growing. The cat, the butterfly is growing. The wings want to expand, and so it's the same thing with humans, on an emotional, mental state, and that we find ourselves creating painful experiences. And I say, well, great. What is it? What are you here to learn from it? What is it that you desire? Because you're obviously creating, and then of course, then there's the other thing. People have to take responsibility for what they're creating, and most people don't want to do that. This whole law of attraction thing that came out, 5-10 years ago was kind of one of those first steps to people taking responsibility for the lives that they were creating. And then there are many who go, yeah, it works. I can create parking spaces, and I can create, a gift or a present or chocolate cake. But I was like, all right, we'll take it further. And, how can you create truly the life that you want to live? And most people give up because, it requires work. It requires practice. And people fall back asleep, so to speak, in terms of their consciousness and awareness. And then they go, oh, life is happening to me again. Look what just happened. And I go, well, you fell back asleep. So it's time to wake back up and take responsibility for the pain that you may not be able to control all of it, but you definitely get to control how you respond to it.
Yeah, a wise man once said that pain is a beautiful lesson. So I definitely, and part of the reason why I'm bringing up this pain topic, and I think, as I said, we're going to bring on a caller within a minute. But
let's do it. Yeah.
Get everybody to sort of wrap their head around this. Okay, everything that we've just talked about in pain, step this out of it, step back of it, apply all of these concepts to a global scale of what the Earth is going through as a single entity. The Earth is going through pain. so it can learn a lesson, so that we as a collective can learn a lesson. A lot of people are saying, this isn't right, I don't like this, we're not treating ourselves right. But through the process, we're learning what it is that we really want. So I think that in itself is, that's a pretty big conversation, but I think that's probably like what the whole like 2012 like paradigm shifts thing is about, is sort of like understanding that we've gone through this pain, but let's move through it. Like, let's learn from it. Let's learn what we want out of it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And there are multiple lessons for everything. There's potential for multiple lessons for everything. And so, yeah, how is it all connected? Because that's exactly the point that you're trying to make. It's like, we're here, the earth is going through its experience, the collective is going through its experience, and the individuals are going through theirs. But we begin to affect change when we work individually, and it's like the many drops that, fall into the river that flow into the sea. And so one by one, we have to do our work. If we continue to look outside into the world and go, look how terrible it is, and look how painful it is, and and I give up. I see people giving up all the time. It's like, I can't do it anymore. It's too hard. Well, I say, well, that in and of itself is a recipe for more pain, for more suffering. So how do you change? How do you affect? How do you affect the change and lessen the level of suffering around you? And we start by doing that within.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, taking responsibility for every action, big and small, and that's takes a little bit of willpower, but that's what we're here to help everybody with, is to encourage you. Because it's so easy for us to get lazy. It's so easy for us to fall into that sense of foolishness once again. But we need to break that habit. We need to be able to get out of that cycle and sort of expand and escape. So that's if we want to change the world, we got to be serious and know that you do have the support of an entire global collective behind you. It's not just you going through this. Everybody is going through this whole birthing process, if you want to call it that. So definitely.
And it takes a lot, and it actually takes a lot of willpower. It's going to take a lot of courage and a lot of willpower. And you don't, and the only way that you can change the world outside of you is when you begin to change the world within you. You cannot begin to affect change outside of you if you are not willing to change yourself. And that is the lesson of all masters and all the great teachers. It is the simple statement of be the change that you seek in the world. You have to become it first, not the other way around. Because if you wait for it to come around the other way, you're going to be waiting for a long time. And we've been doing that game for a very, very long time. So this paradigm shift, is about really understanding that it has to begin with the self, and that we've been given a message in society, especially in Western culture and especially within a lot of religions, that you don't focus on yourself, that that in and of itself is selfish, and that's wrong, for example, and that you have to sacrifice everything for the greater whole. And we see what that has done for a great many people. It's created a huge amount of suffering, and with very little progress. We have moments of peace, and we have moments of, people get to feed their ego. I'm doing something good. I'm sacrificing myself. But really what it does, ironically, is it feeds into that whole victim story as well. And people go, oh, look how much I've given and look what I don't get back, right? Because you're constantly focusing on your efforts outwardly as opposed to really taking care of what needs to be taken care of inwardly.
Yeah, I think a big word in all of this is valor. Valor is boldness or determination in facing great challenge and danger. So that's what I think. That's what we need more of. We need more of that valor within this life. So that's a good virtue that appeals to your heart, I think. So, all right. So we're going to move into our caller. And for anybody else who's in the caller queue right now, I see a few people in the caller queue. Press 1 within Skype or within your actual phone pad if you want to be brought onto the air. So I see a few people in the queue, but they don't have their little thing telling me that they want to be brought on the air. So just to confirm that you want to be brought on the air, make sure you press 1 so that we know, so that we can continue to bring these on. And I think a large majority of these are the female listeners who I was sort of giving the call at. So that would be really cool. And keep in mind, guys, we do have the meditation that Pheonyx will be leading us through happening. We'll aim for that. I'd say 12:30 at the latest. We'll aim for that. So to keep that in mind. And again, if you have not, or just if you would like to, feel free to continue to promote the page, even though we're halfway through the episode right now. We're almost into Sunday, and feel free to just encourage people to get involved with the fact that we're doing a mass group meditation, because that's always, especially with the 12-12-12 thing that just happened recently. I know a lot of people were excited about collective synchronized meditation when that was happening. So that's what we're going to be doing again, and we do it every week. So again, get involved with that. And there's a few things that I would like to be able to get into within this episode. I'd like to be able to talk about the Merkaba at some point, because I mean, I know a lot of people
Sure.
probably familiar with that. So I mean, we'll be able to give a little bit of a background on what that is. I mean, basically, it's like the field, the energy field that's around us, sort of mapped out as this tetrahedron to triangles, one upwards, one, and then they rotate and create a resonant field. So we'll get into that. And in this episode, you may have heard me briefly mention this idea. Pheonyx mentioned this episode, this interview with a person named James, and this idea of the wing makers. That's a whole conversation in itself. And if we don't get into it this episode, I am probably going to be bringing it up on a later episode. But if you would like to, in the meantime, just run a search on wing makers. Like, run a search on wing makers. Go to Google and just see what you start to find. Basically, it's a very interesting story. It involves the idea of like a culture from the future who has the potential to time travel, and they like left all these artifacts backwards in time, and they're trying to like help shift consciousness, and they have a future that has like flying cities, logical sustainability, and it's like spirituality and philosophy merged into a single culture. And there's like a whole bunch of different aspects of different stories of people who are like cross-referencing stuff that all sort of points back to the wing makers. So it's a really interesting aspect that I personally find fascinating in terms of connecting the dots and opening up to this idea that there are like infinite parallel realities and futures in front of us, and time travel is actually quite theoretically real. So we'll get into that in another episode if we don't get into that one, but I just wanted to let you guys know about that, just so you can do the research on your own time. So again, look up wing makers and go to wingmakers.com and just start running your own searches, and I'll put more links inside of these show notes as well. So with that said, let's bring on the first caller who's been waiting patiently for the last 30 minutes. So caller from 780, we're going to bring you onto the show, and we'll go from there. Okay, here we go.
Hello?
Hey.
Hello.
Hey. What's...
Sorry, you can hear us, yes?
Yeah, can you hear me fine?
Yep. You're not a female, I'm guessing, no?
No, and now I feel like a fool. Sorry.
No, it's all right. You know, it's one of the things I want to, you know, I had mentioned to Big Skull earlier that, you know, hey, he had talked about some other people being on call tonight, and it was all guys, and I said, well, where's the divine feminine? We need some divine feminine, and realize that the divine feminine is also within us men, and that, and certainly we can represent that as well. So and it really is about balance. And when we talk about the Merkaba a little bit later, we'll talk more about what does that mean, divine feminine, divine masculine energies, and you know, it's kind of a big part of the conversation. But I also believe that, hey, we're always exactly where we're meant to be, and you're meant to be with us right now. So what is your name?
So where are you calling from, and what's your name?
I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, and this is Eddie, actually.
Eddie. Hey, Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, hey, how's it going?
Eddie from Boxy, and Eddie from Eddie.
Yo.
Hi, what's up, bro?
From 3DL.
So Eddie,
what's up, brother?
He did
hey,
the
how's it going?
Workshop Pheonyx. He's done it a few times. So now, is there something in particular that you'd like to bring up? Because I mean, I would be okay keeping you on the air, and then if we want, we can just like bring on the next caller who is probably female, but you can sort of like join us in this conversation if you would like.
That would be awesome, man. I would love that.
Okay. So
I actually did have a couple things to say, and it's actually about the Paradigm Shift group. Whenever you want.
Oh, getting some feedback there. Somebody doesn't have
I'm sorry, you're kind of cutting out. I'm having trouble hearing you.
Am I cutting out?
A little bit. It might be because I'm on my cell phone. Well, now you sound fine.
Okay, Pheonyx, you're still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, all right. I was getting some echo there, but it seems to be okay now. Test.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, Eddie.
Yeah, our Paradigm Shift meetings have been pretty awesome lately. Numbers grew doubled the last meeting. And actually, we did your Merkaba meditation, Pheonyx, because I actually filmed it at the Spirit Science Retreat. And we had some pretty crazy experiences there.
Well, do tell. And when you say you did the Merkaba, so you did the breath piece, you did the breath fire,
the breath of fire.
And how long did you guys do it for?
Well, only for what I had filmed, so it wasn't very long. It was, I guess, if you want to call them cycles, 2 cycles of breath.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
and a lot of crazy experiences I've had. People ask me to actually give them a copy of that so they can do it on their own at home and stuff like that.
Okay. Can you send me a copy of that as well? Is that something that I'd love to see what you captured? And I know that Brandon got a lot of good stuff too from the workshops. Skull, sorry. And yeah, but that's awesome. And when you say crazy experiences, just to help the people out there who haven't experienced it understand it, because crazy can be a good thing and crazy can be pretty scary for some people. What types of experiences were people having?
Here at the particular meeting, it wasn't something that it was more of like a personal kind of experience. It was like they never experienced their light body activating, nor did they ever experience that surge of energy before.
Right.
And near the end, you always near the end of your meditation, you get people to share the energies with each other, and we did that. And they said, and a lot of people said that the actual transfer of energies was very, very I don't know, they could feel it very well, basically. And some of them were just seeing, some of them saw geometric shapes, but that seems to be something that's quite common with people who do the Merkaba meditation.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, cool.
Pheonyx.
That was great.
Just to clarify, because we're talking like Merkaba activation workshop. A lot of people probably they might not even be talking about. So just from my own experience, it's the way how Pheonyx orchestrates it, and there's lots of different ways to sort of going about aligning yourself with your higher self, because that's really what the process is about. In this case, Pheonyx does a workshop where it's a guided meditation focusing on the breath work. And Pheonyx, do you want to just explain a little bit more about what the purpose of these meditations are?
Sure. And yeah, they're really, and meditation may be a little bit of a misnomer for some people, just because, the idea of meditation for most will be, kind of this Zen state of meditation, and, you kind of go within and get still and quiet, whereas with the Merkaba method, it's really more of a light body. It really is a light body activation. It is about activating the frequencies that are innately a part of and within every single being on the planet, for the basic purpose of clearing out old energetic blockages, and that can show up in many, many forms, emotional, physical, mental, for example. All of them are connected. And to help begin to clear space and to open up and really just raise internal frequencies of energy so that you can begin to receive the higher frequencies of energy that are coming through right now at this particular time on the planet. So that's kind of out there for a lot of people. And unless you've been already doing a certain amount of research and self-seeking, and whether you've got a yoga practice or a qigong or a tai chi practice or a meditation practice, it would probably be something completely foreign to you because there's no frame of reference for it. But for those of you out there who are listening and who know what it's talking about, and then the idea of the Merkaba itself being a sacred geometric pattern that represents the union of the divine masculine and divine feminine within ourselves. When that all happens, when you kind of work with the elements of, and we do that activation through the activity, the primary activity of breath, of breathing. And I love it when I share this kind of information with someone new who's never done any breath work. They go, "What? I know how to breathe. What are you talking? You're going to teach me how to breathe?" And I say, well, we all know how to breathe. Yes, innately we do. Our bodies can do it without even us thinking. But it's about bringing consciousness to our breath and about utilizing a very specific form of breath work, which dates back thousands of years. And again, it can be tied into the yogic practices as well as the ancient Chinese practices of Qigong and Tai Chi that date back 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, even all the way back to the time of the Egyptians and Sumerians. So it's really about activating one's higher self. Yes, a connection with the higher self and a clarity. And people have experiences as Eddie had just described. And I know in the video, in the documentary Skull, you feature some work, and we did 2 days of it and had over 300-400 people going through that experience over 3 days of life, which was just absolutely spectacular and amazing and such a gift. Yeah, it was spectacular. Yeah. So that's kind of what it is in a nutshell. So here, I'll post a link to the live chat for those who kind of want to read a little bit more about it from my website. And there's videos and all that kind of stuff, and we'll be putting stuff out. But yeah, in the short amount of time that I have, and in a basic kind of nutshell, that's what it is.
Let me just take a shot at sort of adding more explanation as to what we're sort of talking about here. First of all, shout out to the roosters in the background. So I think that's our friend. Do you have Phoenix roosters where you live?
Say that again. You were breaking up a little bit there. Say that one more time.
Are there roosters where you are?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I'm kind of in a rice field right now in Bali, or on the edge of a rice field. I'm currently based in Bali, Indonesia, for those people who are out there. And yes, there are roosters. There are even other animals around here, but probably the rooster. Is it loud? That's I can shut the door. I have the door open right now. That's great.
Okay, so I'm just going to do this, and then we'll jump to our next caller. And Edwin, you're welcome to stay with us if you'd like. What I was going to say, like this whole activating the Merkaba thing and stuff like that. To me, regardless of whether you're actually referring to or even using the terminology Merkaba, a simple way of looking at it is sort of it's tuning or aligning your etheric antenna, I guess you could say. So we have this aspect of ourselves that is an antenna. It receives information from our higher selves, and our higher selves is sort of like that aspect of ourselves that can sort of observe this reality beyond space and time. Like it's a part of us. It's a part of us that can see our past, see our future, knows what's best for us, and wants the best for us. So by aligning our etheric antenna, it's going to make it so that we can receive the information from our higher selves, so that we'll be more efficiently able to move through this reality more efficiently, more effectively, and get a more fruitful experience out of this life. And a big part of aligning this etheric antenna has to do with shifting into the heart space and moving into love and practicing virtues within your own life that are really going to bring love to the forefront of your reality. So I mean, practicing things like appreciation, humility, valor, compassion, understanding, forgiveness, things like these heart virtues, and through all these different practices, whether it be the Merkaba activation workshop that Pheonyx is specifically referring to, which is something that he does, or whether it be anything, whether it be your yoga class, whether it be your individual meditation classes, find the method that works for you. There is no one way to align your etheric antenna. There's an infinite amount of ways. So if you want to try one thing, try it out. If you want to try another thing, try it out. Find out what works for you. So I mean, that's just more my sort of message, is that through all this whole paradigm shift thing, I think that's something that we're trying to do. We're trying to do that. We're trying to align ourselves with our higher selves. And the things that prevent us from aligning with our higher selves are things such as frustration and fear, and these create the blockages. So what we're trying to do, kind of like a lotus flower, what Pheonyx was talking about, we're trying to open up of a lotus flower so that we can receive the sun, receive the most amount of sunlight as possible, opposed to closing the lotus flowers up and then limiting our growth. So we want to expand our growth. We want to open up our lotus flower. We want to be able to align our etheric antenna with our higher self. So I mean, that's just, again, using different words, different terminology, and if that helps with some people, then that's sort of my way of putting it. So. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's very well said, and there's many people out there in the world doing it, and there's different ways to activate to your higher self, and yes, this is just one of many ways available. This is the way that was presented to me, and I went through this process of clearing and awakening and activating my own gifts in the world and my connection with higher self through this process several years ago, and then over the last few years, and then right out of 11/11, I was more or less activated to the hilt in terms of presenting this information and this work into the world. And it was more or less more of a direction than it was a question. It was something that I knew I was supposed to do. And and it's just for those people out there who are seeking it. And yeah, it's very powerful. But yeah, thank you Eddie for sharing that information and that you're sharing it out there. And I would and I say
thank you.
Yeah, my honor.
Like
my honor.
I had like some of the most profound experiences doing your meditation. So yeah, thank you for the awesome experiences you gave me.
Well, keep breathing. Definitely keep it up and keep breathing.
If you'd like to, I'll post it as well. But Eddie, just to clarify, Eddie is part of Paradigm Shift Edmonton in Alberta, Canada. So if anybody happens to be listening from that area, feel free to contact Eddie. Eddie, post your Facebook into the live chat as well, and sort of again get connected through there. And it sounds like the Paradigm Shift community is going quite well where you are. So that's a really great news and sharing that, man. So much appreciated. Now, Eddie, since we sort of had this conversation here, we're going to let you go. We're going to bring on the next person, but thanks again for calling in. And is there any last thing that you want to share with us?
Your previous conversation on organized religion and stuff, like I can totally relate with you, Pheonyx, in that sense, because I have been I grew up a Hindu, and I've been through Christianity, and I found like it's like they all did something right, but it's kind of like they went, I don't want to discredit anyone's beliefs because I kind of believe, you believe what you believe, and, I have no problem with that. But from my own personal experiences, it's like I found that it's like it is a good way to get spiritual and build faith and stuff, but at the same time, it's like the answer that I always received from people when I was really, down on my luck and whatnot is just pray. Just pray. And, like, prayer may be able to move mountains, but sometimes you need something a little more than just prayer. You need something a little more tangible, And I found that a lot of the times I would come across these people who claim to, want to follow through Jesus' footsteps and whatnot. And, they would a little bit, but then they would kind of falter a lot of the times, and I could never figure out why. But what fixed that for me was going out and kind of getting out of that bubble of the organized religion and finding my own sort of answers, or I guess others and people who've done like a little more insightful research. And instead of looking at one religion and one story, I looked at a little bit of everything, and it all kind of like clicks together. And actually, Elijah said this quote, actually. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing it. It's pretty rough because it was kind of, he thought of it on the fly. And it was looking at different organized religions, and it was really more of a comedic thing to say than it is a serious. And what he says is, it's kind of like it's always going to be, and pardon my language, it's always going to be the same whore. But you can always put different clothes, different makeup, and different name, but it's always going to be that same thing. Again, it was for more comedic purposes.
Well, and we have to realize that religion has a purpose. I mean, it exists because it has a purpose. And for the greater part, in terms of my experience and the experience that I come across with people who are looking at coming out of the more restricted views of any religion, any belief system that holds a very strict sense of dogma, is that it is the contrast to what is actually true for most once you get to a certain level of understanding. But you have to learn to crawl before you can walk, and learn to walk before you can run. And religion is one of those things where it at least brings the concept of something greater, and that it also teaches important lessons in terms of courage and faith and trust for many, many people. Now, the flip side of that coin is that, it can also be very destructive. And it could be very, we obviously see many wars are created because of it, and because of the dogmatic views being held by those who tend to go to the extreme of it. But that's true of anything. And that can even be true of just general spirituality, which is why it's very careful not to be too attached to even titles. When you're doing this work, people ask, well, what are you, or who are you? And I say, well, I am exactly as I am in this moment. That's completely evolving every second. I go by the name Pheonyx, and I have certain belief systems, but all those are constantly evolving and changing. every single moment that I'm here on this planet. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. And I have one more question. What is your personal opinion on people? I don't know if you see it as a label, but using the label, because the label, in my opinion, New Agers. I've been hearing that a lot lately. So, what is your opinion on that?
I'll answer that question with a story. I recently held a 2-day summit in the Philippines called the Om Talks, and it was basically based on the model of TED Talks back in the States and now around the world. So it was about 25 different speakers from mostly the Philippines and a few folks like myself from outside of the country, 1 or 2 or 3. And we did 20, 30-minute talks, over the course of 2 days, and then we had all kinds of sponsors and vendors, and then people came in and so on and so forth and listened and participated, and we did a lot of stuff. But we had a couple of vendors and sponsors there that were more conservative, and they didn't quite know what they were getting into, I think, when they signed up to have a table. It was the first time that they had done something like this in Manila, in the Philippines. So, and we already are planning a second one in 2013. So it was hugely successful. But you have to understand that the people in the Philippines are primarily Catholic, and it's about 90% Catholic, and they're very devout, and many of them are very, very devout. And they're open, and several of them, just like anywhere else, are open to other things. But we obviously had a few who were not quite open, or as open, at least in the beginning. And they pulled one of our coordinators aside, and then this coordinator shared with me and said, we had one of our born-again vendors come up and say, hey, that speaker up there, that's New Age. That's New Age. What's going on here? and the coordinator, who one of our sponsors, just without batting an eye, looked at him and said, actually, it's not New Age. It's old age. It's old age. This is old information, and we're just applying, it's just new to you because perhaps you haven't heard it before. And he went on to say, we've forgotten these essential truths. And so, again, humans want to put a label on things. It's a natural part of our process of having to identify. And so New Age, of course, to many people means something, hey, it's new, it's shiny, it's better, right? It's all of these things. And in fact, the New Age movement in and of itself has been around for quite a long time, technically since, the 60s and early 70s. But I say to people, whatever label you choose, just know that it's constantly evolving and changing, and that even through all of this information is ancient. This information is old. And simply because it's new for people now, because it's not how we've been taught or programmed or led to believe, if you would, educated. And so for some people it is new, but the information is very old. It goes back a very long time. We're just looking at how to apply it in a new way today.
Yeah.
Sweet. That was really great. Thank you, Pheonyx.
Cool.
You're welcome. My honor. Namaste. It's good to hear your voice. Thanks, Eddie.
You too. I miss you, buddy.
Yeah. Love you guys. Yeah. Send my love to all those in Edmonton.
I will.
Cool. All right. Okay. Thanks, Eddie. And again, post your Facebook and the Paradigm Shift Edmonton in the live chat, and people can connect with you further there. So, cool. All right. Okay.
Thanks, and much love to you guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Cool. All right, so without having to dawdle too much, let's bring on the next caller, since I'm believing it's probably most likely a female. So, we actually have quite a few people in the live chat queue ready to come onto the air. So if we don't get to you next week, please continue to come onto the show again the week after, because we do want to be able to hear everybody's story. And obviously it's not going to happen all tonight, but continue to come back so we can sort of space it out from one week to the next. Just so everybody's aware, after the show ends, which will be at 1 a.m., we're probably, presuming Vaughn Halford is going to be around, we're going to do a Google Plus Hangout. So even though the show is actually going to be over in terms of Blog Talk, the conversation is not going to be. So Vaughn will create a Google Plus Hangout, and then he's going to post a link inside of the Blog Talk live chat, and it will also be up on the facebook.com/ParadigmShiftRadio. So if you have not yet, go to the facebook.com/ParadigmShiftRadio, like the page, and you will see the link there, and feel free to join it. And if you you aren't one of the people who get in, because since there is a cap on it, we'll be able to post it up on YouTube, and you'll be able to watch it on YouTube as well. So that will be part of the after party, if you want to call it that. So cool. All right, guys. So like I said, let's bring on the next caller. So caller from 347, if you're ready, we're going to bring you on the air. So here we go.
Hello?
Caller, you can hear us?
Oh, hi.
Hello.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Heather, and I'm calling from Brooklyn, New York.
Heather, and what would you like to bring to the...
Hi. I'm sure maybe some other people feel sometimes like how I do, like we feel called to do something more, and we're seeing all this stuff available, like, ooh, I think I want to do that. Oh, if I want to do that, I want to do that. And yeah. It's so hard to trying to focus because I know I want to do more with my life. Like I always want to be like a teacher. I'm always like helping people. Like with what you're doing, feel like it's so inspiring. That's what I would love to do. But it's just like, how do I do that? What do I do? It's like there are so many things. It's like, ooh, there's stuff about angels. There's crystals. Then there's Reiki. Then there's Kundalini. And it's just like there are so many directions. And I don't know, like, is there a way to focus? Because I just feel like there's so many. I feel like a little kid in like a candy store is like, what do I do? Oh my God. It's just hard to like just pick one, because it's like, oh, if people just pick one and go, but it's like, I can't. There's so many interesting things all at once.
Yeah. I hear you, Heather, and you're absolutely right. It is. We are like kids in a candy store right now because so much is coming up and out of the woodwork, and so many of these old practices are beginning to show up again and reveal themselves. Shamanism is a very big thing, something I was drawn to, and I realized that my one idea of a shaman was very Native American and very simple, and that was it, and because that's where I grew up, primarily within the States and the U.S., and so I was that was the only kind of exposure that I had to the idea of a shaman, But then as I've been traveling around the world, I realized that there are all kinds, and that shaman is just another term for healer or teacher or person who works with the elements, if you would. And so so where do you begin? And I say, well, one of the things you can I certainly encourage people to do is just to certainly step back and take a breath, and that. Again, it's not important that you do everything. And when you take a moment to kind of sit, and it's like when you go to a restaurant, for example. I don't know for you guys, but I love buffets. And in fact, I'm a huge fan of Chinese buffets. And it's not because I love to eat. It's not because I love to eat. I can hear people out there laughing, too, and the friends I know, because it's like once a month I have to have a really good Chinese buffet. And it's not because I like to eat that much. It's because I love choices. I love the ability to have a choice in what it is, and it just all of that laid out. Now, there are some places, right, that are just overwhelming, and yet I find them an interesting challenge to be able to walk in. And the first thing I do is I take a walk through the aisles, especially if it's a Chinese, one of those mega Chinese buffets, which is like 5 different buffets. And I check in. What am I hungry for? What am I seeking today? What is it I'm looking for? What type of food, of nourishment is it that my body is seeking? Yay, my mind goes, whoa, we've got millions of choices. Look at all this, and I want that, and I want that, and I want that, and I want that. But I check in with how I'm feeling on a physical level. Oh, okay, well, today I'm feeling like, the wontons and the soup and so on and so forth, and salad and meat, and other days it's vegetables or so on and so forth. So it's the same thing when we're looking at those things that are here to feed us, to nourish us on a spiritual level. It's like we can get all excited and our mind can kind of get into that place of confusion, and then many people end up not making any decisions and doing anything, as opposed to checking in and going, what is it that I need right now? What is the thing that's calling me most in this moment? Is it Reiki, or is it tarot card, or is it Qigong or Tai Chi or yoga? And checking in, and you do that process and being still, not looking so much at the menu, but really sitting and going, how do I feel in this moment? What is the thing that's wrong? Because you have the ability to do it all. We all have. You can do this work for the rest of your life, learning. but you don't need it all, because pretty much you'll realize after doing a few things, you'll realize that they are all very similar. They all pretty much share the same concept, and that you're here to do something very specific. And there are very specific tools and practices that will help you do what it is that you're here to do. And as you are drawn to that, then how you use them in the world will become more and more clear to you. As you become more connected to the work itself, the universe will simply provide. When the student is ready, the teacher will show up, and it's the same true the other way. When you become learned enough and you go, and now I'm ready to share this in the world, when the teacher is ready, the student will show up, or the opportunities will show up, and you'll just know how to move about that process in time.
Okay, I guess I know patience is something I always have trouble with, because it's like, I want to do it now, and it's just like, I'm like waiting and trying to figure it out. So it's like, So it's like trying to be patient, it's just like, okay, because all the time I always feel like I'm always on the cusp, on the verge of something, but never quite there. And it's frustrating. I'm sure in hindsight, I'll understand it better, but since I'm in the middle of it, it just always seems out of reach. And I think that's one thing I'm having really trouble with, just trying, because I even hear from other people who I talk to, is like you're on the verge of something, but it's like, yes, but I don't know what it is or where I'm going. And I always hear I'm on the verge, it's like about to happen, but it's like, what is it? I don't even know. And it's just like trying to figure things out. And then I'm looking into other things, and I was interested in shamanism, life coaching, all that stuff. And there's so much stuff on the internet and so many programs you can do. It's just overwhelming. Do you have any suggestions for people trying to figure stuff out? Just because the internet is great and also crazy at the same time, because there's so much information, but at the same time there's so much information.
So I would say, you know what the information is, and I would say start with the soup.
Okay.
With the soup. What is the simplest and easiest thing that you can begin your process with, and that also speaks to you? And so, again, using the analogy of the buffet, I see and I go, okay, I can go crazy here, but let me start with the soup. Okay, I have my choice. I have hot and sour, and I have clear broth wonton. Two choices. Which one of those do I want to go with first? And oftentimes I'll choose the one that I'm familiar with, the one that I know I like. But oftentimes I'll do that other thing where I'm like, let's try this one. Let's try this. Or if there's 4 soups that day, well, I'm only going to choose one. So let's start with the soup, and let's begin with one and see where that leads. So don't worry about what else is out there. Pick the one thing that speaks to you most right now.
Okay.
And just start with the soup, because all that other stuff will still be there, and you'll know where it'll go next, And you'll try the soup, and sometimes the soup ain't so great, right? You're like, okay, I tried that. I'm not even going to finish the soup now. The egg roll, and so on and so forth. Or now I'll try another soup, So just start in the one place that speaks to you most, and start with the simplest place. I say the simplest will be the easiest, and it will begin to unfold into the other areas. And there is a lot of stuff out there that can be pretty complicated. And you have to start, again, it goes back to you have to learn how to crawl before you can walk. And so, build a basic practice and a simple knowledge with something very easy that is drawn to you.
Okay, and I just have one other thing I want to ask, because I also mentioned this on your Facebook, because I want to share, because I'm trying to understand prayer, because someone brought up I should try praying more. And I guess because I have my own hang-ups, I guess with some other people here with organized religion, it just kind of seems weird. But when I'm trying to pray, I'm not sure if I'm feeling like I'm talking to God, but it just kind of feels like I'm kind of talking to myself. And I just wanted to know more your thoughts, because I'm trying to learn how to pray again, because, growing up in a Christian church, it's like, you pray before you eat, the standard prayers and everything else. And I also felt a lot of guilt with that, because it's the only time most people really pray is when bad things are happening, like someone's in the hospital, someone was in a car accident. You don't really pray when you're happy, when you're grateful. And I've been trying to do that, but when I'm trying to be grateful, it sounds like I'm more talking to myself than praying. Is there really a difference? Because I know God is with me, I am within God. It's just, I just find the concept very confusing.
Sure. And the issue of prayer is can be very confusing for many people because of the way that we've been taught. Usually when people pray, they're taught to pray to something very much separate and outside of them. And I say that it is both outside as well as within. So when you're beginning to work the process of working with the universe, and when I pray, I get out of the concept that I'm praying to, some old man on a cloud, sitting on a cloud somewhere, right? Which was the version of God that I was given when I was very young, learning how to pray. But now I to the overall energy of all life, the source of all that life, and also you can pray to the trees, you can pray to the earth, you can pray to anything, anyone for that matter that is part of this planet. And you can pray to yourself. I would say that, part of the process of prayer is really a communion. It's simply a communion with God or source or creator, whatever your higher power is. And the best way for me to kind of explain it to most people, and I share this a lot in classes, is that the only difference between prayer and meditation is that prayer is speaking to God and meditation is listening to God. And you have to have both. Oftentimes we just send our prayer out and then, it's done and we don't really pay attention. We don't really listen back to what the answer is. And the answer is something that comes from within oftentimes, but it shows up outside of us in a very clear and defined way, whether it's actually getting what it is that we're seeking, whether it's a healing of our mind or body, or something more tangible, or something relating to a relationship, or so on and so forth. So I think just getting to the point of knowing that any time that you put energy in prayer is simply just an energy. It's just an energy of thought that's out into the universe with a request to have an answer back. And the universe always says yes. It doesn't always say when. So we have to let go of when our prayers may be answered. But when we trust more and when we have greater faith and courage, going back to those concepts that are taught to us primarily in the realms of even religion, we go, okay, all right, eventually, I may not always get what I want, but I will always get what I need. And so we have to be open to that as well, not being so attached to what it is that we're asking for, but knowing that what we're asking for essentially will always be provided. And so just getting out of your head around it too. I think a lot of it, Heather, is that, it's just not getting caught up in your head about the concepts of prayer, and just simply when you are speaking to your higher self, you're speaking to God, and those both within as well as without.
Okay, thank you so much. I found this very enlightening, and if you're ever in New York, I would love to be able to see you. And thank you so much for speaking with us today. I really enjoyed hearing you today. Thank you.
Oh, namaste. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Heather. And again, Heather, if you can just share into if again people can get connected with you there if something you want to do. So cool. All right. So ready to meditation, and Heather, again, thank you for being on the show, and we'll be sure to keep in touch. So namaste, Heather. Thank you again.
Thank you, Heather. Cheers. Your thoughts, Brandon? Stoll. I want to keep calling you Brandon. What are your thoughts, Stoll, on prayer and meditation? I know you've got a practice of your own, doing some things. So I'm curious to hear what you got.
I mean, I think I like kind of what you said, where the idea of, like prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening. I think that sort of sums up like sort of this idea that I see with it. And I think there is, obviously there's a whole conversation in there, but I mean this idea of being able to connect with our guides, this idea that like our guides, like this idea that like we chose to be here in this physical incarnation in the same way that there are other entities who chose to be in higher dimensional incarnations to be able to assist us being the physical aspects of this reality. So, I mean, there's people on the other side, so to speak, and some of them could be loved ones who have passed on, and they're just there waiting for the chance to be able to speak with us. And when we get into these places of meditation, we get into these places of prayer, it sort of opens up that channel. Again, it sort of aligns this antenna where that communication is established, and we can sort of get that insight, get that wisdom, get those suggestions and those ideas that sort of like help us move into a path that is more authentic with our best interests, with our will, so to speak. So, I mean, yeah, like I think I wouldn't say that I quote unquote pray too much, but I mean, yes, I do meditate, and I think that's something that like anybody can sort of pick up on, because I mean, prayer connotation to it. But I think it is something that we're constantly sort of like learning to redefine, because like it's really just sort of another way to open up like that communication between us and the all that is, so to speak. So cool.
It's a really good point that, a lot of people, what Heather had said, is a lot of people go to prayer as a last resort. It's when they're desperate and when they need something from God. Please save my marriage, please save my child, please save my job, please save me, my life, so on and so forth. And it's often prayer is approached as this sense of, it's the end of suffering. I'm out of my wits here. I don't know what else to do. So they say there is no such thing as an atheist in a foxhole, for example. It's like, even then, the soldier prays when life, especially, is in the balance. And I would like to shift, and what I encourage people to do is to shift the paradigm of the concept of prayer, and that, again, everything, all energy wants to move. So if we're listening, if meditation is very clearly an open process of simply listening to what the universe has to tell us, then knowing that the universe also desires to hear from us as these individual expressions of itself. So the universe, in many ways, I imagine, goes, well, what is it that you want? What do you want me to tell you? And, be specific. And so prayer is that point of being very clear and specific, help me understand this. And or even being grateful. I look at gratitude as a huge form of prayer. Like I say, thank you all the time to the universe, for the amazing events and experiences and people and opportunities that are being presented to me just within these last 4 or 5 years since I took the step to go on this journey. And I'm amazed at every time it shows up. Even today, I'm like, wow, that's huge. And I say thank you. And for me, thank you is a form of prayer. It's not even asking for anything. It's just giving gratitude to the divine for answering, so many things, for giving so many things, even without conscious asking for it. Because, again, we always get what it is that we need. We might not know when. But now that we're moving and the energies are moving faster, and that our communications, as we're activating our higher selves and opening up those portals of communication with the divine source of all things, with information, with light, people are manifesting, seeing the things that they are asking for much more quickly. And I mean, within days, if not, hours and minutes today. It's amazing how it shows up. And so even the act of giving grace and giving thanks to the universe for that, for me, again, that's communicating with the source, is a form of prayer. And so I think if we just say anytime we're sending energy out, we're making a prayer, whether it's verbal or whether it's simply, from our heart space or a thought. And anytime we're receiving the information back, we're in that process of listening, which can also be very deep connected to the meditation process. When we get still and quiet, we can really hear more.
Yeah, it really is. In the simplest sense, it's just like it's like of the fact that like we are much more than ourselves. We are just like a branch of a bigger tree, sort of thing. So I mean, I think for anybody here who's listening, sort of take that with you beyond the show. Just sort of take in the idea of gratitude into your daily life, and even if you want to call it prayer, that's fine. If you don't want to call it prayer, that's okay. But just do that to sort of be thankful for the experiences that you're having, and sort of even tying it back to what we were talking about earlier. Like if you can be thankful of the painful experiences, quote unquote, then you're really gonna start getting it. Like that's like you maturing. That's like you evolving. And kind of what you're saying with this whole paradigm shift thing, like there's a lot of these energies that are on this exponential curve, and you can get into this idea of like synchronicity, and things are manifesting faster. So if we can get more into the habit of creating this line of communication, we're going to be more able to efficiently manifest things into our life, not even for ourselves, but for other people as well. So I mean, we have to do that. We have to keep those lines open. We want to keep that antenna ready to receive. So and speaking of that, I think Pheonyx, let's get into our meditation. So we're at about 40 right now, and the show does wrap up at about 1 a.m. Now, for this meditation, as we sort of do it, we'll have the music that I have that will sort of cue up. So we'll get you to sort of walk us into it, and then you let me know when you want me to cue the music, and then we'll go into silence, and then we'll come out of the music. So what would Now, what do you have in mind in terms of this meditation? I mean, like, like we've been talking about like Merkaba activation. Like, I don't really think that's something that can fit into just like a short, only
Right.
8-minute meditation, so to speak. So is there something else that you have in mind? It's up to you.
Well, I think with our closing conversation, our tail end conversation around prayer and meditation, what I would and gratitude more specifically, and given the recent events that are are very much in the forefront of the consciousness of the American people, especially, and those around the world, is the recent tragedy and shootings that occurred in Connecticut, and we know that this type of thing is challenging, but it's making people very much aware about what is truly needed in the world. Every time we have these types of events, these very big and tragic events, it requires people to really kind of go into that space of love, or to look at their lives and see how we can understand and better heal ourselves, and how we can send love and energy of prayer and light out into the world. So I'd like to do a gratitude meditation, and allow people, and maybe so it'll be a guided, I assume. Then we're not just going to be doing a silent. This is going to be a guided meditation by I guess like yours truly.
Yeah. So guide us up to the music, then we'll play the music, and then we'll be in silence for about 5 minutes, and then we'll bring us back. So.
Okay. So you're not going to play the music, and I do it over the music. You'll do it before. Oh, okay. So why don't we just do a little a gratitude? We'll just get into a gratitude meditation, and we'll see what comes up, what Spirit brings through the words as we tap into listening, and I tap into listening and tap inside. So shall we begin?
So if everybody would like to just get comfortable, and I'll mute my Pheonyx, and then we'll leave it up to you. And again, just let me know when you want me to cue the music, and then we'll go from there, and we'll come back. So.
Okay, great. So all right. So wherever you are, folks out there listening, so just simply sitting or lying down, whatever allows you to be comfortable. And if you're sitting, to either sit with your legs crossed and your hands just gently resting on your thighs or your knees. And I always like to do this process, especially when doing meditation or prayer, to have the palms up and open, both for sending and receiving. And if you're sitting in a chair, to have your feet flat on the ground, just connecting with the earth, and opening up. And just start with the breath. Just take a deep breath, close the eyes perhaps, and draw the breath in through the nose and down into the heart center. And as you exhale out again through the nose, and simply just begin to let go of thought, let go of any distracting thoughts in the mind. As you just exhale, just to visualize, imagine those thoughts just falling away, maybe drifting off on the breath. And simply draw your awareness back to the breath as you breathe in. And draw the breath down a little further, now into your solar plexus, or right below the chest, right in the top of the belly. Breathing and relaxing, and as you exhale, again releasing and just letting go, perhaps relaxing the shoulders, and letting go of any thoughts that come up. Trying to figure it out, just let it go. Trying to analyze even your breath, just let it go. Now draw your awareness as you draw your breath, breathing in down into the lower belly. Imagine as if you're breathing all the way into the base of your spine, all the way into the tailbone. And as you inhale, then to just observe the sensations or vibrations of your physical form. See if you can notice any flow of energy. And as you exhale out, again releasing more thoughts, anything that might distract you from just breathing and observing what's going on in your body. Now breathing all the way down from the crown of the head. Visualize this beautiful white light of energy sourcing at the crown, maybe even sourcing all the way from beyond. And as you breathe in, drawing it all the way down, just see it in your mind's eye. And breathing down into the lower base, into the base of the spine. And as you exhale, begin to ground this energy. Just visualize this energy entering into the earth, perhaps visualizing the roots, like roots of a tree. And again, as you exhale, releasing any thoughts and just coming back to the breath and just breathing that energy in and down through the crown now. Penetrating through the heart space and down into the root, into the base of the spine. And begin to feel your body. Begin to scan it with your mind and observation. Try not to think about it, just observe it. Notice any sensations, perhaps some tinglings or vibrations. And as you exhale, begin to send that energy out into your field all around you, into a space about 3 to 4 feet all the way around, above, below, in front, and in back. Continuing to breathe down through the crown all the way into the base of the spine, connecting with the earth. And find something to be grateful for in this very moment. Find something in your life to be truly grateful for, whether it's a relationship or an experience, perhaps a pet or a child or a parent, a loved one of some sort. And just hold that image and that energy. You bring it to your mind, breathe it into the heart space, and feel the gratitude that you have for that very special gift in your life. And allow the vibration of that gratitude as you exhale to extend deep into the fingers and the toes, all the way into the hair follicle, into every cell of your body. Continue to breathe. Perhaps find another thing to be grateful for, or simply focus on the one. Allow your heart to open up in that space of gratitude. And now as you exhale, begin to send that out into your energy field, front and back, left and right, up and down. And visualize it like a beautiful green, pink light that filters all around you. These are the associated colors of the energy of gratitude within the heart space. And now begin to increase the capacity of your breath all the way deep, even fuller breaths, all the way down from the crown, down into the base of the spine. And focusing on this energy of grace and gratitude, begin to exhale and send that energy out even further into the space all around you, into the room that you're sitting in. Expanding your energy field all the way to encompass even the building. Imagining that every being that it touches sends a wave of gratitude into their hearts, into their bodies, and perhaps even relaxes their minds. It's up to them to receive it, but you can still send it out all around. And taking another deep breath in and down, extend this energy out like a ball of light, even to encompass your neighborhood, your block, even your city, your town. You can do this simply in the blink of an eye, simply by seeing it expand, drawing your awareness. And now taking another deep breath in, full breath, full on chi. And as you exhale, send all that energy to all the beings around the planet, back to the planet itself, down into the earth. And wrap this energy of light all the way around this big, beautiful globe. And continue to breathe and send for the next few minutes as Brendan plays the song. Just continue to breathe and send more energy of gratitude and light to every place. Take a deep breath and draw that energy back into the heart center. All that energy, and allow yourself to receive the gratitude in return, connecting with all the other beings that are in this moment of holding space, connection with light, with love. And allow it to feed and nourish you in a way that helps you heal. Let go of pain and suffering. To know that all life is about choices. And give yourself, drawing your hands to your heart, one over the other. Giving gratitude to this physical form, to the mind that helps understand it, run it, and to the heart that resides within. And bring your hands together in namaste or prayer hands in front of the heart. And take one deep breath together. And perhaps we'll all close with an om, the sound of the universe, one of the most beautiful and precious prayers that I think we can give.
So let me just say, Pheonyx, before we all inhale here, the show is going to end in about 6 seconds, give or take. So just a reminder, everyone, there will be the after party in Google Hangout. So we'll do this om, and then that'll pretty much be it. So again, continue this practice beyond this show. So
beautiful. Thank you, Brianna. Let's go. All right, deep breath in, everyone, and we'll close it out with a beautiful om. Namaste.
Namaste. So again, the light within me honors and respects and sees the light within you. So namaste to everyone who's been listening. Thank you once again for tuning into Paradigm Shift Radio. And again, be sure to tune in next week because we do want to get more people on the air. So in terms of the Divine Feminine, we would love to get some more females. Facebook Radio page, the link to the Hangout, and we will see you guys in the future. Thank you again, Pheonyx, and theocgproject.com. So, all right, Pheonyx, thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Blessing. Love.
Cheers.
Talk to you again soon. Cheers.